Katherine Johnson loved math. As a young girl, Katherine loved to count. She counted everything like the number of steps she took on the road and the forks and plates when she washed the dishes. And Katherine loved math in particular. One day, she would help NASA put an astronaut into orbit around Earth. And then she would help put a man on the moon. But Katherine faced a multitude of struggles in her path to becoming successful. She was born in a small city in West Virginia, so she had limited access to a higher education. And after college, there were barely any job opportunities for high level mathematicians like her, especially for women of color. So Katherine had to settle for a job as a public school teacher, and she also had to give up a job that she already had to get married and have children. Finally, when she was 34, NASA began hiring women to solve problems, and these workers were called computers. Catherine got the job and began to work with teams of men, and eventually she was recognized as a leader. And the men increasingly relied on her to have the answers they needed. It took her many years to finally become a permanent team member at NASA. And in 1962, NASA began to prepare for the orbital mission of John Glenn, and Katherine was the first to be called upon. IBM computers had been programmed with the orbital equations that controlled the trajectory of John Glenn's capsule, but before the flight, Katherine would always run the numbers by hand. Glenn's flight was a success and marked a turning point in the space race between America and the Soviet Union. But what makes Katherine's story so great is how much she contributed to NASA. She calculated and analyzed how geometry could be used for space travel, and NASA used Katherine's math to find the paths for spacecrafts to orbit and land on the moon. But she had to go through gender and racial segregation. And obviously, times have changed. Women and girls are no longer barred from participating in the STEM field and have a much easier time joining it than 100 years ago. But the gap between men and women in STEM still remains. Only 19% of computer majors are women, and around 30% of the workforce of tech giants such as Apple, Microsoft, and Google are women. So it's no secret that women are underrepresented in STEM, but what exactly makes it a problem? What is the incentive we should have to be inclusive and encourage more female participation in the field? Well, here's a story about an ox. In 1906, a great statistician, Francis Galton, had observed a competition to guess the weight of an ox at a county fair. And he thought, I might as well run an experiment on how close the average guess is to the actual answer. So Galton took a bunch of different people, farmers, lawyers, store owners, housewives, children, and compared them all. And obviously, the farmers' average was very close to the actual weight. But what surprised Galton was the collective average. The actual weight of the ox was 1198 pounds, and the total average of all the groups, or the entire crowd, was 1197. That's 1 pound off, and the crowd's judgment was essentially perfect. This astonished Galton. There was no way the collective average, the collective judgment of a diverse crowd was better than a bunch of ox weight experts, farmers. And Galton had no idea what to do with this information or how this was happening. So he began telling others, but no one seemed to believe him. So he decided to do some research. And what Galton found was that every person's guess contributed some new small piece of information. Everybody is different. Everyone thinks in a slightly different way. Given the task of guessing the weight of an ox, maybe one person studies the ox from a different angle. Some might be trying to find how many humans would fit in an ox. Another person might already know how much a horse weighs, for example, and try to guess from there. But the point is, every person's guess reflects their specific and different view of the world. Every person's mind is almost like a different scale for weighing the ox. Put everyone's scale together and you get a near perfect estimation of the ox. What we can learn from this is bringing in many different people is the only way we can get results. So we need to start thinking about this. In this image, it's assumed that everyone, given the same box, will be able to see the baseball game. The first and second guy can see the game all right, but not the smallest guy. Imagine you are the little guy. As you hopped onto the crate, you would look around, try to see what's going on the other side of the fence, but without luck. Oh well, you don't really know what's happening, so you simply walk away. But in this image, everyone is given a different number of boxes, so everyone gets equal access to the game. Now all three of them can see. So what do these two pictures mean? If we apply this picture to opportunities for men and women in STEM, we could say the tall guy represents men and the short guy represents women. The tall guy is the big majority of men in STEM, and the short guy is the girls and women who don't have the same opportunity or maybe even discouraged from pursuing STEM. Now we have progressed from image 1 to image 2. We have clubs and organizations all over the world to help girls and women pursue a career in STEM, such as Girls Who Code, for an example. We have given them a chance to see the ball game and shown them what the game is all about and what it has to offer. So now there are more and more women and girls who are showing interest in STEM, majoring in STEM, and getting jobs in STEM. But what if there was a way to get rid of the boxes altogether? Is there an option to not need supports at all? Well, there's actually a third image in this series of images, and here it is. Once again, all three of them can see the game, just like in image 2. But the difference is the fence has changed. In the previous one, it was a wooden fence, but now the fence has been replaced with a see-through one. In this case, the cause of inequality has been addressed, and the systemic barrier has been removed. So the conclusion is we need to get rid of the fence blocking the view of girls and women. One reason contributing to the discrepancy of women and men in STEM could be gender stereotyping. So the first step is to get rid of the old mindsets we all have. When you think of a scientist, for example, maybe you think of a man in a white lab coat. Both men and women tend to think of a man right away. The study of women's historical impact is an optional course called Women's Studies, whereas the mandatory class about the historical impact of men is simply called History. These are the little things that are widely accepted as a norm, which we don't really think twice about. And that's what we have to get rid of. Stereotyping and stigma has been preventing women from entering STEM for generations, but we can change that by being mindful and changing our perceptions about gender roles. Once girls and women have the chance to see what the ball game has to offer, more females will be involved. So don't just give a boost to STEM for women. Open your mind. Let's get rid of the fence. Thank you.